Shalom, my friend, I speak to you not just with words, but with a cry from the Spirit, because the time is late, the calling is great, and the journey is not for the faint of heart. I come to you with a message, the will and never the annoying. What does it mean? It means this: the calling of your life, the purpose of heaven over your days, will never be fulfilled by catering to what is annoying, frustrating, or petty, but only by anchoring yourself in the will of God. You were not created to live your life in reaction to irritation. You were not formed in your mother's womb by the breath of God, just so you could spend your days frustrated by the small, the petty, the temporal, or the trivial. No, your life is far too sacred, your calling far too weighty, your destiny far too eternal to be shaped by the annoying. Look around. This world thrives on distraction. It celebrates noise. It exalts the offensive, the outraged, the loud, and the fleeting. And if you do not anchor yourself in something greater, you will be tossed about like a leaf in the wind. That is not your portion. The calling of God is not found in the storm of opinions or in the daily irritations of this world. It is found in the stillness of His will. The will of God is not just a plan. It is the very breath of your purpose. It is divine, it is holy, it is eternal, and it calls you upward, higher than your surroundings, deeper than your distraction. When the prophet Elijah was overwhelmed, when he was pursued and pressed and ready to give up, the Lord did not meet him in the earthquake, nor the wind, nor the fire. He met him in a whisper, a still, small voice. That voice, that whisper, is the voice of the will of God, but you will never hear the whisper if you are tuned in to the volume of the annoying. The enemy knows he cannot steal your salvation, so instead he tries to steal your attention. If he can't destroy you, he'll distract you. He'll send delays to make you doubt. He'll use people's offenses to make you bitter. He'll magnify little things to make you forget the big picture. But those who are led by the Spirit are not moved by noise. They are moved by purpose. The Messiah did not chase arguments. He did not spend his ministry correcting every critic, fighting every Pharisee, or reacting to every irritation. He was not driven by who misunderstood him. He was driven by the will of his Father. When his own disciples couldn't understand the cross, he did not turn aside. When he was rejected in his hometown, he did not cancel the mission. When he stood before Pilate, falsely accused and mocked, he did not defend himself, because he was not there to please people. He was there to fulfill a purpose, and that purpose, the will of the Father, was more precious than the noise of the crowd. So now I ask you, beloved, what is driving you today? Is it the calling of God, or the distraction of irritation? Is your spirit being fed by His presence, or drained by the pestering of the world? You were not called to waste energy on what is not eternal. You were called to walk in something higher, something divine. Do not trade the power of your assignment for the pettiness of offense. Do not give your spiritual strength to something that was never meant to carry your focus. Lift your eyes, turn your ears, quiet your spirit. The will of God is not found in the whirlwind of annoyance. It is found in the alignment of your heart with heaven. And when you fix your eyes on that will, when you chase that still small voice, when you choose the eternal over the emotional, you will walk in peace. You will rise in clarity, and you will move in the power of one who is no longer distracted by the dust, but driven by the divine. There is a stillness in the center of God's will that the world cannot comprehend. It is unshaken, unchanging, and unmoved, because it is eternal. The will of God does not shift with the news cycle. It does not tremble with the economy. It does not bow to moods, nor is it swayed by emotions. It remains, as it has always been, fixed, rooted, and sovereign. But the annoying, the irritating, the noisy and chaotic, that is the nature of the storm. It rises quickly, it rattles loudly, but it passes just as fast. The will is steady. The annoying is stormy. Think of Peter, the disciple who dared to step out of the boat. What an extraordinary moment! It defied every law of nature. He walked on water because he looked at the one who spoke the water into existence. But the moment his eyes shifted from the Master to the madness, from the Savior to the storm, he began to sink. It wasn't the water that caused his fall. It wasn't even the storm. It was the shift of focus, and it's the same with us. The annoying is not just what's outside. It's the voice that says, "Look away." The irritation is not just a circumstance. It's a test of sight. Storms will always rage. The world is full of things to provoke, to poke, to unsettle. It will send waves of offense, winds of frustration, rain clouds of confusion. But those who walk in the will of God must walk like Peter before he sank. They must fix their eyes on the one who does not move. They must walk with vision that is higher than the waves, and trust that steadiness is not found in their circumstances, but in their calling. The will of God is not stormy. It doesn't panic, it doesn't react, it moves with intention, it walks with power. It stays the course, and those who align with it must do the same. You will never fulfill the will of God by reacting to every wave that crashes against your life. You were not meant to fight the sea. You were meant to walk above it. When Yeshua slept in the boat during the storm, it wasn't because he didn't care. It was because he knew. He knew the authority he carried. He knew the promise of the other side. He knew that the storm was loud, but the Father's will was louder in his heart. And when he rose and rebuked the wind, he was not speaking out of fear, but out of perfect peace. That's what you are called to, not to be one tossed back and forth by irritation or fear, but to become one who moves from a place of steadiness, one who silences storms, not with striving, but with authority, one who chooses not to be drawn into every argument, every offense, every negative voice, but who walks on with unwavering focus. Do not let the noise steer your steps. Do not let the storm dictate your direction. The will of God may lead you through storms, yes, but it will never leave you in confusion. It is a path of clarity, even when the surroundings are dark. It is a walk of purpose, even when the journey is long. So walk in it, slowly if you must, but steadily. And when the world shouts, when the waves rise, when the annoyance of life tries to steal your peace, remember this: the will is not in the wind. It is not in the waves. It is not in the noise. The will is in the stillness, in the quiet obedience, in the step that says, "Though everything around me shakes, I will not be moved." Let your life not be led by reaction, but by revelation. And you will find that storms may surround you, but they will not sink you, because the one who called you is steady, and his will is your ground. There is a power that comes when a life is surrendered to the will of God. It is not just peace, not just purpose. It is breakthrough. The will of God does not merely guide your steps. It breaks through walls, it splits seas, it topples giants, it shatters chains and overturns thrones. When you walk in the will of God, you are not walking in theory. You are walking in the very fire of heaven's authority. Every miracle begins with a yes to the will of God. Every deliverance, every open door, every impossible turning to possible, all of it flows from the place of obedience. The will is breakthrough, but the annoying, the frustrating, the constant pull of distractions and emotional bondage, that is not breakthrough, that is bondage. It is subtle, but it is just as real as chains on your wrists. Bondage does not always look like sin. Sometimes it looks like a life consumed with irritations, a mind rehearsing offenses, a heart tangled in little things that never mattered, and slowly, without realizing it, you stop running. You stop rising, you stop moving forward, you start circling the same mountain, fighting the same thoughts, reacting to the same people, and calling it living, you can be saved and still stuck. You can believe in the promise but never reach the promised land. Just ask Israel. They were delivered from Egypt, but many never entered the inheritance, not because of the enemy, but because of their own complaints, their own irritations, their own refusal to let go of what annoyed them and grab hold of what was promised. They grumbled when they could have worshipped. They fixated on the discomfort when they could have walked in destiny. That is the bondage of the annoying. It keeps your eyes low and your heart heavy. It makes you think the problem is out there, when in truth, the enemy is using what's small to stop what is great. The will of God does not leave you circling. It propels you forward. It is not always easy, but it is always advancing. It is always freeing. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea, hemmed in by Pharaoh's army, it was the will of God that made a way where there was none, not their striving, not their complaining, not their anxiety. It was obedience to the word of the Lord that brought breakthrough. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Moses said, that is not passivity, that is power. That is the will breaking the bondage. Yeshua did not suffer the cross because it was convenient. He endured it because it was the will of the Father, and in that yes came the greatest break through the world has ever seen. Resurrection was not born out of irritation. It was born out of surrender, out of alignment with the will, and if the Son of God needed to choose the will to unlock glory, how much more must we? You may be tired. You may be weary from the noise, the friction, the endless cycle of emotional weight. But you do not have to stay there. That is not your identity. You are not a slave to the annoying. You are a carrier of breakthrough, and the path to that breakthrough is not paved by fixing every problem, silencing every critic, or solving every delay. It is paved by one thing, obedience. Surrender, alignment. Today you can choose it. Today you can say, no more to the bondage of offense, no more to the trap of irritation. I will no longer be governed by what drains me. I will be driven by what called me. And when you do, you will find that what felt like a wall becomes a doorway. What seemed like an end becomes a beginning, because the will of God is not just a path, it is power, so walk in it, let it part the waters. Let it shake the prisons, let it resurrect what has died. Let it turn your wilderness into a wellspring. The annoying will keep you stuck. The will bring you through. Choose this day to walk in what frees you. For the will is breakthrough, and the breakthrough is now. Beloved, you are not here to be annoyed. You are not here to be distracted. You are here to do the will of the Father who formed you in the womb. You are not a slave to the storm. You are a vessel of glory. So choose this day the will, and never the annoying, and you will walk where others sink. You will rise where others fall. You will finish the race. And heaven will say, well done, good and faithful servant. Shalom and strength to you.